Polytopia fans have recently released a way to mod Polytopia. This is a massive change, as it allows fans to actually test their many ideas. I'm here to show you how you can create your own mod, because while the Polytopia wiki is useful for reference, there are easier ways of learning to mod. Let's jump into it. I'm going to assume you know a little bit about Polytopia mods already. After all, you found this video. If you don't know what they are or how to install them, there are a couple of great videos by Gully and PolyChampions that I would recommend checking out before this video. There are a couple mods I've seen made, a skin for an existing tribe, a new normal or a special tribe, or a rework of the tech tree, units, or buildings. You can even create your own units and upgrades. I've divided this video into chapters, so feel free to skip to the one that interests you most. Some of the more complex mods may use concepts taught earlier in this video though, so keep that in mind when doing so. A Polytopia mod is a folder that contains the files the game reads and adds to the game. The folder must be in the mods folder inside the Polytopia game to work. It must have a manifest file, and may include a patch, localization, and sprites files, as long as PNG files for custom sprites. The folder can be one of three things: a folder, which we are all used to, a zipped folder, and a .polymod folder. For now, we'll just use a normal folder, and I'll explain more about this later. Without a manifest file, your mod will not load. A manifest is a short JSON file that tells the game what to call your mod, and it includes useful information the user may want to know, including the name of the mod, the version of the mod, authors, and sometimes dependencies, which are things you need in order for the mod to work properly. I have also included templates for a skin mod, a rework, and a new tribe. Find links to these in the description, and I'll run through them near the end of this video. I highly recommend installing Visual Studio Code for modding anything. VS Code will tell you if you have any syntax errors and even where they are. It also makes formatting and reading your code easier. To install, simply search VS Code in a web browser and hit Visual Studio Code. Make sure it says VS Code, not just Visual Studio. Hit download, then run the file. We'll use this later. A skin mod, or texture, is a mod that changes the appearance of some sprites in the game. Getting the textures to appear in-game is easy. All you have to do is create a PNG file and name it correctly. The Polytopia wiki shows the correct naming system that Polymod uses. Name.png will replace target for all skins and tribes. Name tribe name will replace the target for the specified tribe. For example, we want to change the head from the default Imperious head to our own head. We have the file here, and we'll name it head.gladius.png. To create your PNG file, you can use any image editing tool. I've heard of people using Blender and Inkscape, but a simpler tool like PowerPoint or Paint could work too, if you want to use that. Polytopia has released their game graphics, so you can use those as a starting point to make your life easier. A link to these files is in the description. Just with using these files, you are able to change the sprites in-game. But what if you want to make an entire new skin without changing the skins already available in the game? Well, to do that, you'll need 3 different files in addition to your .png images and the manifest. You'll need a JSON file called patch.json, localization.json, and sprites.json. Your patch.json is a file that Polymod will read and add to the existing game logic data, or GLD. The GLD basically holds all the information about all the units, improvements, tribes, skins, and a bunch of other stuff. The patch file allows us to access parts of the GLD that we want to modify. So in this case, we just want to add a new skin to the game. To do that, we will need to go to tribeData, find the tribe for which we want to add a skin, and add the skin to it so the game knows where to add the skin. In this case, we are adding a skin to Imperious called Gladius. Then, in skin data, we give our skin a color using a decimal number to find the color. To find a color you like, go to a hexadecimal color picker, then convert it to decimal. Then we have our localization file. This is where we will create a description for our skin, as well as create a readable name for it. Your mod will technically work without this, but it's much nicer if we change it. Here we see tribeskins/tribeskins Gladius, where the skin name Gladius should be. This change is simple. All we need to do is go into the localization file and change the current string into what we want it to say. Because it says tribeskins Gladius currently, that's where we will put our definition, the words we want to change. We put English because we are assuming the user is playing the game in English, and write Gladius as the value. Now you can see the unreadable string has turned into what we put there instead. We will want to do the same thing with the description, so we'll put the string here and what we actually want it to say here. And now, as you can see, it works. The final JSON file we have is the sprites file. This file is very important, as it is how you are going to size your sprites. This one is simple though. You just put the name of the file you want to change, and then this is what changes the size. Pixels per unit changes the size of the sprite, and pivot changes the position of it. Default values are as shown. This can take some trial and error to get right, but it's necessary to make your sprites work correctly. And with that, your skin mod is complete. Make sure you watch the end of this video to see how to distribute your mod. A rework is an addition or change of some aspect of the game. I've seen reworks of tribes, tech tree reworks, unit reworks, and improvement reworks. A rework is simple in concept, but there is a lot of data to go over, so that's why this chapter is so long. Don't be chased off by the length, it's actually really easy. To create a rework mod, all you need is a manifest and a patch. You'll also need a localization file if you are creating new units, improvements, text, and a sprites file if you are adding anything that requires a sprite. You know about the manifest file. In the patch, you have many different options. This is where your greatest power lies. Using the patch, you can modify the stats and abilities of any unit or improvement, change any tech, and much more. I'll be going over most of this, so be prepared. Before I get into the different types of data, I'm going to teach you how to access the vanilla GLD. This will give you the ability to easily copy and edit whatever you want, and will give you a really good template to follow. First, go into your Polytopia folder in Steam. Open the JSON file there. You'll see a screen like this. Turn debug to true. This will allow you to see errors and give you some other options too. Now open Polytopia. Click the Poly Hub button, then click Dump Data. This will put a new file in your Polytopia folder called GameLogicData. Go back to the Polytopia folder, then open the Dumped Data folder. There's the vanilla GLD. Open that file with VS Code and feel free to explore it. Basically, when you create a patch file, you are writing more code that Polymod puts into the vanilla GLD. This allows you to tweak many different aspects of the game. Inside your patch file, you are going to have a structure looking like this. All the code is encased in curly brackets, and everything inside those brackets are indented. All the data are indented once, and since they have brackets and things inside, everything in those brackets are indented twice. Basically, all the words you type will be in quotations, and every time you assign a value to anything, you will need a colon between them. If you have several things you are adding in the same line, with the same amount of indents, it will need a comma, unless it's at the end of the list. If you don't follow these syntax rules, the game will crash when you try to load it, so make sure you do so. unitData is where you can access all the units in the game. There are 14 different values you can change for each unit, including attack, cost, abilities, and more. These do not need to be in any specific order. Health is the health of the unit multiplied by 10. Defense is the defense stat of the unit multiplied by 10. Movement is how many tiles the unit can move per turn. Range is the range of the unit. Attack is the attack stat of the unit multiplied by 10. Cost is the cost of the unit in stars. Hidden tells the game if the unit should be hidden from training in cities or not. For example, for a giant or a baby dragon will be true because they're a super unit. You can only get them from upgrading cities. Upgrades from tells the game what unit this unit upgrades from, like a baby dragon to a fire dragon, and the default will be null. Unit abilities is an array of the abilities the unit has. All of the unit abilities in the vanilla GLD is shown here. The weapon is what weapon the unit should use. That's for the weapon animation when they're attacking. Promotion limit, this is always set to 3 or 0 in the base game, whether you want the unit to become a veteran or not. The default will be 3 if you don't include this. The index number, IDX is short for index. This is very important. Do not change the index number of any existing unit, and if you want to make your own unit, you must use an index of -1. This tells Polymod to assign the unit an unused index number. You'll also use this for custom monuments and other things like that. Growth rate is how many turns it takes for the unit to grow into another unit, like a baby dragon into a fire dragon. Default will be null. With unit data, you can easily change the stats of a unit. If you want to create your own unit though, you'll need a prefab. We'll use a custom unit called a cavalry archer as an example to explain what this is. As you can see, this unit is basically a rider with range 2 and costing 5 stars. Weapon 3 is an arrow, so the unit will use that attack animation instead of the club swinging like the rider does. We give it an index of -1 so the game creates its own index number, but the important part is the prefab. Since we don't have a sprite for the cavalry archer, the prefab rider will use the rider sprite. The thing is, we don't want the rider sprite, at least not completely. We want it to have a bow and quiver instead of a club. To do this, we create a PNG file called a weapon club cavalry archer, which replaces the club weapon with this image for the cavalry archers of all tribes because the double underscore at the end. We also have a white version for the outline. We've also made an icon for our unit called cavalry archer icon, which will replace the icon with our image for all cavalry archers. Same thing with the skin mod, we also have 4 different JSON files. You should know how all of them work by now, so I'll just run through them quickly. The localization file takes the string the game creates for the cavalry archer name and makes it readable to cavalry archer. The manifest tells the game the mod exists and what it is called. The sprites file resizes the cavalry archer sprite and its icon, and the patch gives us the stats of our unit, as well as which tech it comes from. Which brings us to techData. TechData tells the game what techs exist and what is inside of them. In this case, we have added the unit unlock cavalry archer to free spirit. We haven't touched improvement unlocks, so the game will use the default and assume it should also unlock disband and temples as well. So when we open the game, we can see that the horse archer is in the free spirit tech, and if we buy it, then we can buy a horse archer and also disband our units. TechData contains multiple important parameters concerning technology stats and values. So all the different technologies are listed here in the techData wiki. The index number will always be -1 if you're creating a new tech. If you are using an old vanilla tech, you can just ignore that. The cost of the tech, so that's the cost tier of the tech. If it's a tier 1 tech, then you'll want to put the cost as 1, tier 2 tech 2, and so on. Tech unlocks, this is the basic tech these examples are coming from, so every tribe starts with being able to unlock organization, climbing, and so on. For climbing, it will have the tech unlock meditation, and so on. Improvement unlocks will unlock different improvements. Once again, the basic tech will unlock cities, ruins, and landfills. But some other techs might unlock like temples, as an example, or lumber huts. Unit unlocks, I think this one's fairly self-explanatory. Riding will unlock riders, so on. Ability unlocks, this is taken from the free spirit tech. You unlock the ability disband. And then all the player abilities included in the game: disband, destroy, literacy, and so on. You can read. The task unlocks is the thing that gives you monuments. So wealth is the one from the trade tech. When you get 100 stars, you get the Emperor's Tomb. Movement unlocks. We almost never use this, but climbing, for example, will have a climbing 1 on it. And then defense bonus unlocks. So this defines the different defense bonuses that you can get. This is taken from the aquatism tech. You get a 1.5 defense bonus in water and a 1.5 defense bonus in ocean. I believe using this you could change the numbers to potentially make it like 2.0, which will give you 2 times as much defense in the ocean, which gives me a couple ideas for my own mod actually. You've already seen one example, but let me show you a more complex one. This is from a Polaris Rework mod. This makes Frostwork a tier 2 tech, putting the cost at 2, and letting the tech unlock aquatism. Ice fishing is reworked to be a tier 1 tech, unlocking Frostwork. Polarism is given an empty improvement unlocks. This is because if the author wouldn't have specified, the game would have assumed he wanted the improvements to stay as they were, and have the tech unlock ice temples. Now the tech doesn't unlock any improvements. It does, however, still unlock the ability that gives Polaris units double movement on ice, because ability unlocks aren't touched. Notice that defense bonus unlocks is added, giving all Polaris units a 1.5 times defense stat on ice. We're going to skip down to Polaris Water, which gives Polaris Water units the ability to move in water. This matters for a new unit the mod provides, and also for the explorer to be able to move in water. Improvement data is basically the same as unit data, only for improvements instead of units. Improvements include buildings, tasks, and abilities, such as defense bonus or disband. All vanilla improvements in the game are shown here. The IDX, of course, will be -1, or you don't touch it if you're just modifying something. Hidden is if improvement is hidden from building in cities. The cost of the improvement, of course. This improvementData.work specifies how many stars the improvement generates. For example, work for the sanctuary will be 1. Actually, we'll use the market as an example. Work for the market is 1, and then it'll give you 1 star per level of the market. Max level is the max level of the improvement, so for temples it'll be 4 because they can upgrade 4 times up until level 5. Improvement abilities are here as well, so they can be unique, that means there is only 1 in the entire game. Limited is 1 per city, and so on. Heal is for like mycelium for some anti. Bridge just makes units and ships able to walk on it, etc. I'm not sure what creates does actually. Rewards is the rewards of the improvement. For example, a lumber hut rewards will be 1 population. Terrain requirements is what terrain the improvement has to be on. For example, Mountain Temple will be mountain. Adjacency requirements will be, for a market as an example, you have to build it next to a forge, sawmill, or windmill. Adjacency improvements, same thing with market. It specifies which improvements level it up, so sawmill, market, forge. Growths is, I'm not sure what that's used for. I assume ports, maybe? Range is for how much range the improvement should connect to other improvements of that type. For example, ports or outposts. Growth rate is how many turns it takes for the improvement to grow to the next level. For example, a temple is 3 currently. And growth rewards is the rewards for the improvement leveling up. So for an example, we'll look at a temple mod that I created that makes temples more useful for domination. So for a normal temple, for growth rewards, I kept the score as a growth reward and added population, so now the temple will give you population every time it levels up. The forest temple costs 5 stars now. It has the heal ability, so at the end of your turn, all units adjacent to every forest temple will heal. Rewards for building it give 1 population, and growth rewards give 0 population and 25 score. Water temple, same kind of thing as the normal temple. And the mountain temple, I changed growth rate to 1, so it will level up every turn. And then score, it'll give 35 score per level up, and then 1 population. And lastly, we have tribeData. TribeData will be the key to creating a new tribe. We'll use Simanti as an example. You know about the index number. The color I explained earlier in this video. I don't actually know what style and climate are for. I assume it's for the terrain type, but I don't know for sure. Each tribe has a number specifically dedicated to that tribe. For language, the game will combine all these syllables to make the city names. So, for example, the Simanti city name could be like Dio or something like that. Not sure what bonus is for, actually. Starting unit, usually this will be a warrior for most tribes. For Simanti, it's a shaman. Category is 2. This shows where if the tribe should be grouped with the normal tribes or the special tribes. Price tier is just used for the game itself. If you want to buy tribes, you don't need that. Terrain modifier, this modifies the terrain, so mountain, water, and forest in your area. For Simanti, they have an increased mountain generation. Resource modifier, it'll modify the resources, of course, so that'll be fruit, crops, mountains, or not mountains, sorry, spores, animals, etc. Starting tech, every tribe will have basic as a starting tech, and then Simanti also has farming, of course. Starting resource, this will guarantee 2 of whatever resource you put here. It will guarantee that 2 of those resources are around your capital. So for barter, it's animals, for Imperious, it's fruits, etc. Tribe abilities, most tribes don't actually have tribe abilities. Poison resist just allows the tribe to resist poison. Simanti is immune to poison. And a full list of that is lower down in this Poly wiki. The tech overrides, so construction is overridden with recycling for Simanti, and then so on, with chivalry is replaced with shock tactics. Unit overrides, so the rider becomes a hexapod for Simanti, the giant becomes a centipede, etc. That's fairly self-explanatory, I think. And improvement overrides is the same thing, basically. And with that, you know everything you need to know about creating a rework mod. That was a lot of information. Don't feel bad about coming back to reference this video or the vanilla GLD file. Basically, your rework mod will contain a manifest and a patch, the patch file changing everything you want to change. You will need a localization file if you are creating any new units, improvements, text, or tribes. And if you are doing so, you'll probably need some PNG images, a localization file, and a sprites file to make sure the visuals work correctly, though these aren't even needed for testing. And that's everything here. Feel free to skip to the chapter about distributing your mod if that's all you need for now. A new tribe is the most common mod I've seen, and it's easy to see why. New tribes are really fun and flashy, especially if they're special tribes. And actually, you already know how to create a new tribe. It's just a matter of putting what you know together. A new tribe will have 4 JSON files and some PNG sprite files. JSON files include a manifest, a localization file, a sprites file, and a patch. Let's look at this tribe called Bûcheron, a Canadian-themed tribe that starts with the forestry tech. We'll start with the manifest file. As you can see, the ID is Bûcheron. There's no name, so that's will show up as the name. Version 1.0, and then the author is here. For the patch file, he only needed to do anything with tribeData. So added a tribe called Bûcheron, added a color. The language, I've explained that. You need a starting text, starting resource. The terrain modifier, he added tons of forest and slightly less mountain. It's a resource modifier, there's less crops and slightly more game, more fish. Priced here, so it's free. Category 1, so it will be grouped with the normal tribes. The starting unit is a warrior, and then the IDX-1 tells the game to create a new tribe for Bûcheron. The localization file creates strings for the Bûcheron tribe name and also for the information of the tribe. So this shows up as the tribe description. The sprites file just goes over a bunch of the sprites that we already saw in the file, and then changes the size and the pivot of those sprites. So just moving them around a little bit. And of course we have all the PNG files. This specific tribe only has a head, so then it'll use the default body part for Bûcheron, or for with a color, so red in this case. The different houses, house 1 through 5 is just used for randomly for all cities. House 7 is used for the capital. He created game, that's the animal sprite, the fruit, forest, field, and then all the monuments. He also created a mountain. He did not add any files for the special weapons, so like swords or bow and arrow, so the game will use the default parts for those as well. And so, as you can see, creating a new tribe isn't very difficult. The most time-consuming part is making all the sprites and getting their proportions right in-game. I'll show you a special tribe I helped with called Sanginir, a vampire-themed tribe that has bats instead of riders and vampires as their super unit. As you can see, we added many more files for the images. Most of them are just custom sprites, but then, we also have some custom images, and we changed the weapons of some of the units. When we were creating this tribe, we came across an unexpected problem. We used the prefab boat for our special units, such as the bat, and turns out that the sprite of the boat, or part of it, ended up coming along with our sprite for the bat. So what we ended up having to do is create a tint for the bat, and then just make the tint outline just one little pixel so that we could basically make it invisible was our goal, and it worked really well. Because we used the prefab boat to create our custom sprite, we had to first name it boat underscore, then bat double underscore. I don't know why that is, but it works, so you can always download this file and then try to pick it apart and see how we did everything. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out and ask. In our the localization manifests are pretty much the same as Bûcheron, but for the patch data, we changed some of it slightly. The tribe data is virtually the same. For tech data, we added a flight data, so this is a new tech that unlocks the bat. It replaces riding, because riding as a tech overrides. We put flight for this tribe, and then it unlocks these techs, of course. We create a new tech called ritual. It is unlocked instead of disband. It unlocks the improvements temple and the sacrifice ability that sacrifices a unit and then heals all surrounding units. meditation, philosophy, we added a vampire castle and a unit that replaces Mindbender called the Fanatic. For unitData, we added a new unit called Bat, a new unit called Fanatic, and Vampire replaces our super unit. So it has slightly modified stats, and then it has the ability Leech. This is supposed to add +1 to the attack when the unit is attacking units of lower health than it. And then it also heals if it kills the unit. We changed the dagger to a dagger bat. And then improvements, we added an improvement, Sanginir Sacrifice. Of course, I already explained this. It's a second disband, basically. To add this ability, we actually had to create a C# file, convert it to a DLL file, and that goes into Polyscript. I'm not going to cover that in this video because it's far too complicated. Feel free to ask about it if you're interested, or ping me if I should learn about it and make a video. I'm gonna need a lot of... yeah, that would take a lot of time. Anyway, this is just adding abilities here. Wait. But if you don't want to play with the abilities, basically all we added is a couple of extra units and then the slightly changed text. That's literally it. The sprites took the most time. I didn't actually do that. I'm very happy about that. But yeah, that's the special tribe Sanginir. And congratulations, that's everything you need to know for creating a custom tribe. Thanks for sticking with me. Your mod works and you're happy with how it turned out. So now you want to give other people in the community the opportunity to enjoy your work. However, you cannot really distribute a folder, at least not in its current state. So we will make it into a polymod folder. To do this, first enable extensions on File Explorer. Open your mod and select all the files inside. Right-click, then hit Compress. This will create a zip folder that we can easily distribute. Make sure you do not compress just the file or your mod will not load. Compress all the files inside instead. But first, we will want to rename the folder. Right-click to rename, then name your file whatever you want. In this case, we'll name it Bûcheron Special Tribe. But with each mod you distribute, you'll want to rename the .zip extension to a .polymod extension. This doesn't really affect how the mod works, but it's easier for the users to see easily that this is a Polytopia mod file. And with that, create a forum for your mod on the Discord. Tell us a bit about it, attach the file, and post. I like posting a link to a GitHub page instead of attaching the file directly, but that isn't necessary. Ask for opinions on what to change if you like, or keep it how it is. I've attached templates for different mods you can create in the description, and this is where I'll go over them. We'll start with a skin mod. My skin mod has 5 different files. A head for your tribe, that's just a placeholder that you'll replace with your head for your tribe, and 4 different JSON files. Now you can add more sprites if you want to. I definitely would recommend it. This will add more flavor to your mod, but I didn't know what you would add, so past the head, you're on your own. We have a couple of different JSON files though. So for the manifest, anything with these double asterisks you will replace with your own thing. So the ID, you'll just do skin name, and then your version you'll start with 1.0, and then your Discord name as the authors. In your patch, I put tribeData and then quotations for your tribe name. Or no, this one's the tribe you want to add a skin to. So for Gladius that we saw earlier, this was Imperious. And then this would be the skin name, so Gladius for that example. In skin data, you'll put your skin name here, so Gladius for our Gladius skin. And then color, I showed you earlier how to find a color. it'll be in a decimal number, 8 or 9 integers. For your localization file, you'll have tribeskins skin name. You'll replace this with your skin name, and then English with whatever you want it to say. So probably just a capital letter with your skin name. And then the tribe lore for the description. For the spreads file, you'll have your head and then skin name. And then I just did the default values for now. And then for any other files you'll add, you'll also add new files here. So if you're making a forest, you'll do like forest skin name. And then you'll just do the same thing, pixels per unit, pivot, and then you'll change it for whatever size. You'll use trial and error for that. All right, and for your rework template, I've only got 2 files here, your manifest and your patch. You may need to add more if you end up going over that, changing more things. The ID, you can do whatever you want. Just make sure your first letter, or all your letters, is lowercase, or else your manifest will give an error. Your name will be whatever your mod name is, version, and then your Discord username. For the patch, we'll do whatever data. So in this case, with a farm, it would be improvementData. And then you'll just replace this with whatever you want to add or change. This isn't a very good template because I can't actually add too much. I don't know what you're going to change, but that is why I gave you so much content on the rework. You know what to change, and then if you don't, you can just go into the vanilla GLD, copy what you want, and go from there. Lastly, we have the new tribe template. And for here, I have a couple of sprite files stolen from the Bûcheron tribe. You'll for sure need some house sprites, the monuments sprites. The mountain and the game are technically optional, but I would recommend doing those. Also, a forest would be a good idea. And then your head will be mandatory to make your tribe look unique. Then we'll go over the manifest file and all the different files. Okay. Got the manifest. Your ID can be whatever you want. The name will be your tribe name. Same thing here. Localization, you'll just change this to whatever you want, your tribe name, and then the info 2 will be the second part of your tribe. So you don't need this for a skin because the tech you start with doesn't actually change. So we'll just use the default like Imperious part if you're making a skin for Imperious that says Imperious starts the game with the organization tech. But if you're creating a new tribe, you'll need this. For the patch file, same thing with the color. It's basically the same thing. Change your tribe name, and then for the language, you'll need a bunch of syllables that sound thematic to your tribe. You can look for examples in other mods. I took some examples from the Sanginir mod. The starting tech, you'll start with the basic tech and then some other starting techs. The Bûcheron tribe starts with forestry, Kiku starts with fishing, etc. Your starting resource will be whatever resource you want, guaranteed 2 of them in your capital. Terrain modifier and resource modifier went over. All this should be, you should know what all this does by now. The sprites file, same kind of thing as before, just add whatever sprites you're changing, and then I put the default units to here. For the sprites JSON, no, sorry, we're going, nope, we're done. Okay, that's everything you need for templates. And with that, you should be ready to create your own mod. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ping me at Hawkfrost314 in the Polymod Discord server, or ask in the modding general channel. And I would also love to see what mods you create. Feel free to ping me if you built a mod because of this video. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time. Except, you know, I won't actually see you because this is a video, but yeah, you get my point.